You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Inside the Black and Gold. I'm Brendan Weissel.
Sam Jane.
And Michael Howes. And this week we have on a very exciting guest. Let's get right to that interview.
Well, Maryland Athletics been struggling a little bit recently, but a big pickup that they had is for a future Olympian and a current Olympian. Quincy Wilson committed to the track team over the past week, and we are pleased to welcome on Quincy, Maryland native, went out to Paris, ran a couple big races, and now he's going to be in College Park for the next couple of years. So, Quincy, we appreciate you hopping on Under the Shell, man.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Well, let's start off with the big news. How many have you compared medals with Andrew Ballman yet? Has that been a joke you guys have done?
No, we've joked about times and things like that, but when he's gotten the medals, I think he has too many he can even count. And for me, I don't even know where a lot of my medals are. So we just talk about times.
I mean, you guys were close to breaking his record, right?
Yeah, we were real close. I think it was a couple milliseconds away. We was super close, but he still says that. He said that's what he has over me. So once I break that, I can tell him what to do.
Awesome. Tell us about your relationship with Coach Vollman. How much did that kind of play into your committing to Maryland?
Right. I played a huge role into my commitment. You know, having that coach that has that world championship, Olympic gold, has that he's familiar with the situations, the experiences, the agents, and many other people that can keep pushing me towards my success. And he knows what it takes. And it's great to it's great to get coached by someone that can tell you something and you can be like, okay, it actually worked before, you know? It's not just, a random coach just out there telling you this what to do. He's actually been through it and he knows the same pressure. He knows the pressure, the nervousness, and everything you're going through on like a race day and things like that.
I think maybe up until last week, when you thought of schools, when you thought of track schools, at least colleges that are, great at track, Maryland was not the first one to come to mind. Obviously, I think you're going to work to flip that narrative. What did you see in Maryland that a lot of others probably haven't?
I mean, it's my hometown. I've always been someone that is big on leadership, and I feel like that's one of my huge components on why I've committed to the University of Maryland. I've always said I want to lead a program, and that's what I've done with my high school team, and I'm willing to do that in college. I didn't really want to follow after the majority of athletes, and like I said, I'm wanting to build a strong program in the DMV. You've seen the quote, the best in the DMV stay in the DMV, and I really stand by that. And I hope a lot of athletes, even if they're not even from the DMV, know that we can change this program and make this one of the most powerhouse programs in the Big Ten and overall in the NCAA.
Yeah. Tell me about that pitch that Maryland was giving you, centered around state pride. Because when I was talking with Coach Vollman last week, he said, we came at him with a state pride pitch, what it means to stay home. So what were they telling you?
Right. I mean, it's not just, they told me that not just in Maryland, but the whole state of Maryland was behind me, not just UMD. And I feel like that's a huge aspect and to another reason why University of Maryland is now my next home, because it's different. There's never been a person there, I can even say a track person, that's ever said that the governors gave him a call and let him know and introduced them to a school and things like that and just welcomed them and congratulated them. I think that was super crazy. I've never seen it before, and I feel like it's one of the first. This whole state has been behind me in my decision. They're super proud, super happy, and just looking forward to what I can do. And like I said, if I ever need anything, if I need to call someone, there's a bunch of people that's always been said they can reach out. Like everybody has just been there for me. And some names I've never even heard of that I've met that are legends have talked to me and reached out and said, I can't wait. And so it's bigger than just track. It's a legacy that I'm trying to make at the University of Maryland.
So Westmore gives you a call. Is this an unknown number coming to your phone? Do you already know him? What is that like when the governor is calling you?
So I've known him probably a year now since the Olympics. We've just created that relationship, that strong foundation that we've had, and his powerful words and his inspiration is wore off on me by now, has wore off on me, I can say. And when I got that call, I didn't know it was from a random number. My dad is just like, get your phone and start screen recording. I'm like, what am I screen recording a call for? And then he'll just like, when I got on the phone, I'm like, it's the governor. I said, oh, let me fix my hat real quick. Let me fix everything real quick. So when I did that, he just basically was saying congratulations and just welcomed me to the UMD. He's alum, and he can't wait to see what I do. And he actually said he's going to come out to some meets, which is great. He said he's never really been to a track meet, so I hope I can bring him out there, and I feel like that would even bring even more attention to the school and what our team is trying to build.
Quincy, you were in contention with a lot of schools
Right.
that have a lot of money.
Right.
And NIL is obviously a big part of a lot of college kids' commitments. You were a kid who you've already kind of been in that area. I know not technically under NIL, but you've had companies and brands come to you in the past. You signed, I believe, with New Balance, right? How much did that play a role in your commitment, and what pitch did Maryland give you on how they kind of saw you being able to take advantage of their NIL?
Well, when it came to money, it's real private and things like that. But when it comes to just the support, I feel like when it comes to just like the support of the foundation, what didn't even come down really to the money. It came down to the support, like you just said. We've talked about in the previous question how people are just going to be behind me, and I kind of think that's more important than that. And I just feel like the way that they're going to set me up for my future, just on the track, off the track, in the education, and just everything as a whole, I think it's just going to be a huge support for me. So it's not really just the NIL part. It's more to the aspect of why University of Maryland, Coach Bauman, the team, the support system, the academics, the money and everything. The NIL, it was great, but I was more focused on a lot of different other things.
I think specifically when you talk money in track, right? A lot of people before you in the NIL era, before the NIL era, let's say Noah Lyles, he commits to Florida and then Adidas gives him a lot of money and he goes pro.
Right.
What kind of part, did you think about going pro, or did the NIL part of it kind of say, you know what, I can get an education, I can still make money and then also run track?
So when I was coming in, I think it was my sophomore year, kind of a lot of different things. I talked to my mom. She was like, what do you like? What's the best thing? And we just had a long sit down. We're just like, track could be here today, and then it could be gone tomorrow. Something that can't be taken away is your education, your degree. So it was just like, just go to school. I mean, have fun, be a kid. She still wants me to be a kid and experience college things, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be a man at the end of the day, and I'm going to have to be extremely smart, be educational, make decisions that's going to change my life. So that education was a huge part on why why I'm still going to school. And the education was it's number one in my household. That education, if you're not getting those grades, you ain't going to be having no phone, no computer, no PlayStation, no nothing.
Tell us about that education. You were just telling us before we started recording, you're interested in doing journalism at Maryland. What do you want to do with that once you're done racing? Like tell us about your broadcasting aspirations.
Right. I feel like over the last 2 years, when going around and doing a lot of interviews for big streaming companies, CNN, NBC, Fox 5, a lot of different people and a lot of different websites, and just seeing the behind the scenes and just seeing what they work with, and it caught my attention. I was like, maybe this is something I really want to do. And a lot of them were just like, I can give you an internship for the day or something like that. And I just really fell in love with the idea. And my mom was just like, if that's what you want to do, take your talents and do it. And so I was just like, I really want to try it in college, see how it is. And so I'm probably going to go the journalism route. I'm probably looking forward to the broadcast journalism route. But right now, and like I said, Maryland has set me up. So if I want to go, the connections that I've already started making and I'm going to make in the future can set me up to put me in great spots, and I can excel wherever I go from there.
Taking it back kind of one step, talking about Maryland again, what was your relationship like with the university kind of just growing up? Did you come to a lot of football, basketball games? What made you, I guess, fall in love with the DMV and the university specifically?
I didn't go. I've never been on the University of Maryland campus until this summer, actually. And so, but all of my family is on my mom's side is from Maryland. I call Maryland my hometown. I'm a military. I'm a military kid, but the longest I've stayed somewhere is Maryland. And like I said, it's my family is here. And so it was the idea just at a cookout. It was like, what would happen if you stayed home in Maryland? And now you just hearing all this, what ifs. And then all these what ifs started becoming true. They started coming true. And I'm just like, man, this is something I really want to do. Maybe I can, this program could be something I could really change around, could be a legacy. Coach Bauman, he was at one of my track meets, and he was just like, I didn't want to bother you too much, but we're here now. We can talk." And I was just like, me and my mom listened to his pitch, and when we left, we made a little face. We were like, "Okay, okay, I like what you were saying." We walked off, and we were just like, "We're gonna see what the school has to offer." So it was my mom. My mom is from Maryland, and it was her first time really on campus as well. And so we were just in awe into what everybody came. I met Gary Williams my first time. I met some important people, Coach Locks, the athletic director. He was only there for one day, and that day was the day that he met me. So it was amazing just, seeing what they were putting in place for me. And President Pines coming to my house. He said I was his first recruit he's ever been to somebody's house. So it's just been amazing.
What's your relationship like with Coach Locks?
No, Coach Locks, that's my guy. That's my guy. We talk all the time. He be FaceTiming me. He FaceTime my mom, making sure everything's good. He called right after I committed. He was like, "You're not gonna tell me you weren't gonna tell me you were committed?" I was just like, "Nah, I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew." So, and the next day I was on the podcast with him, and so Coach Locks, that's my guy, and he really was another big reason on why I committed to the University of Maryland. I probably just know the football coach took that amount of time out of his day to talk with me and to understand me as a young man, and not just an athlete, but as a person itself. And that's why I think he's just a wonderful dude outside of the football aspects.
And you kind of kept the trend going a little bit at Maryland of keeping that hometown
Right,
talent.
right.
Do you have any relationships with Malik, Baba, Zion? Do you know any of them?
So Malik has been like so he went to Archbishop Spalding, and so he was like he texted me every week. He was like, "You gotta come home, you gotta come home." And Baba, I never really talked to him until after he committed. But then yesterday they made a group chat. It's called a DMV Avengers, and they were like, he put in a group chat. They were like, "Y'all trying to go to the game on the Michigan game, so you might see us there in the Michigan game and be representing the Maryland," because we made a little group chat. And it's just great to be represent your home state, and all the people around you and supporting you, and when they see you, they just super excited. And just the kids that are younger than us, or even people that are our age that see us in person, it could really spark their mood. It could be a game changer for them. And honestly, sometimes me seeing people, just seeing how happy they are to see me, it makes me want to keep doing what I'm doing and even better.
Tell me a little bit about how you feel like you've grown. I mean, you spent time at Bullis under Joe Lee, who's obviously one of the kind of more renowned coaches in the area.
Right.
It's when you're a guy who's as talented as you are and stepping in and posting good times right away. Where do
Right.
you feel like you've grown not only on the track but also just maturity level? Do you feel like you've kind of taken steps over the years at Bullis?
I feel like Buzz has helped me just be able to make outside of the box decisions, and being able to be mentally strong. Just every day coming into it, just like the commute, the classroom, the classwork, the homework, everything. It just makes me think outside of the box and be extremely mentally strong, because these races that I'm going into, they're not easy. Every single one that I'm going against is a national level competition. Like every single race, it's not even from the first race of the season to the last race of the season, everything is streamed on a high level. And so you have to be mentally ready as much as you are physically. And I feel like at Bullis has prepared me super well for that. And that's one of the things I can say. Bullis has done a great thing for me on the mental level. 'Cause I think that's just important as my physical aspects.
You mentioned kind of taking each meet or each race as serious, but I think, at least if I was in your shoes, I feel like the perspective might be tough. You go in Paris, you go run the Olympics,
Right.
and you come back and you're running high school meets, you're running high school nationals. How
Right.
do you stay composed to take every meet seriously?
I mean, I think the high schoolers I think they're just as competitive, because it's their like not it's their one of their biggest races. I think it's super competitive. I think it's super competitive all around, running against the pros, running against the high schoolers. I think everyone comes with their best game, and so I have to be on my A game at all time. And it's hard. It's hard to stay. It's hard to when you're at the top. It's hard. It's harder to stay at the top than it is when you're at the bottom. So, and making it up. So I just tell my mom tells me to stay focused, stay disciplined, and be consistent every day.
What is like your training regimen going to be at Maryland? Because when I was talking with Coach Vollman last week,
Right.
he mentioned you guys had like a specific plan of how much you're going to race and kind of cater to you to make sure you're ready in 2028. So what's that going to look like for you?
Honestly, we really don't. We still got to have a big meeting and just discuss that because it's only been like a week and some change now, but it's probably more coming up in the next couple months. We'll have it all said and done and set in stone.
It is always funny with Olympic caliber athletes. We're sitting here in 2025 and you're getting asked like, what's your plan for 2028? But I think it's an important note because for someone like yourself who goes to the Olympics, obviously you make the relay team and now the goal I assume would be to make it as an individual. How do you have that goal that's 3 years away, but also, as I was saying earlier, still take every practice and every meet with the same level of respect?
Just staying consistent, staying disciplined, staying motivated is my biggest thing because, like I said, track and field is about the milliseconds. It's about staying focused, and I feel like even just taking a week off, it can it can take a super long time to get that back. So every day, just coming out there with the mindset of just trying to be better and better each and every day, taking that little percent off. Maybe it's form, arm, something different. You just have to look at each and every day as you want to get better.
Quincy, last one for you. This is obviously I think in the track world was looked at as a shocking commitment. You mentioned earlier that you wanted to kind of write your own legacy and your own path. I guess just for Maryland fans who are kind of sitting there thinking like, why? Like, why is this kid choosing a track program that's been, pretty porous the past couple years?
Right.
Why is he coming to a school that maybe doesn't have the resources of a Texas A&M, a Texas, those type of teams? Why is he choosing, a school and university that sometimes struggles to bring in local top talent? I guess just why? Like, if you had to summarize it, why would it be in Maryland?
Maryland, like I said, it's nothing better than being close to family. Family is my number one support system I can talk to. They can always be there for me. Number two, just being coached by Valman. Coach Valman is like I said, he knows what it takes to be a world champion, Olympic gold medalist, and he's locked in on helping me be as successful as possible I can on and off the track. Like I said, I also want to be a leader. I've always wanted to be a leader and lead people, and not be a follower. That's one of my biggest things my parents have instilled into me. And like I said, I just can't wait to see what we can do. And I was a leader at Bullis. We came in with 2 athletes really when I first came, 2 athletes with me, and we were like 30th my freshman year, and now as my junior year, we broke the 40-year-old national record. That has been standing. So it's been amazing. It's been amazing to watch the journey and how things can flip in a couple years. So I'm going to do that with this program, and I can't wait to see what we do. What's the date? Today is December 2nd, 2025. Let's come back December 2nd, 2027, 2028, and see how we're doing.
All right, well, awesome, Quincy. Terps fans are certainly looking forward to seeing you on the track. So good luck the rest of your high school career, and we're looking forward to seeing you race in Maryland.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Before we get back to the show, a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV. Featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, they serve it with handmade toppings, including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And definitely don't miss, their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegans dogs as well as gluten-free buns because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people, guys, it's official. A hot dog is a sandwich. All right, now here's more from Under the Shell.
Awesome interview with Quincy. Honestly, he might be the first athlete in the history of track to have the governor, the president, the football coach all reach out to him to try to get him to come to a school across any school ever in the history of college. So I thought that was super unique. Maybe the best recruit in Maryland athletics history. We'll have to see what happens, but super great to sit down and talk with him.
Definitely. Love the bit about the DMV Avengers. I thought that's a legend that they've got a group chat named that. So hopefully, we're going to have a graphic up of the Avengers of the DMV. But outside of that exciting interview, it was not an exciting weekend for Maryland athletics, specifically the football team, which completed the 8-game losing streak to close the season at 4-8, losing to Michigan State at Ford Field. It got a little interesting at one point in the second half, but the inevitable happened. The Terps just kind of collapsed down the stretch again. There was a missed field goal. They lost it on downs, and then they gave up a touchdown on fourth down to close the game. So,
Mike, can you tell me what it was like to watch an incredible football game, two of the best teams in the country play at the game, Ohio State, Michigan, and then have to go watch Maryland play Michigan State?
So I'll say
seriously.
I mean, the Maryland Michigan State game was a lot more of an exciting game to watch, but atmosphere wise, Big House takes it. Excitement wise, watching the game, Michigan Ohio State takes it, and then it's like, all right, here we go. We're watching Maryland football. What are they going to do here? And it's like, okay, they collapsed again. What to do? You know, it was
a lot warmer. Probably.
You know, I was watching my first game from the Big House. I was so pumped up. I was so excited, and then I started watching the Terps, and it brought that excitement all the way down.
Yeah, that was awesome to be able. Mike coming into my hometown, taking him around, showing him Ann Arbor and stuff. Pretty fun.
Yeah.
I did not go to the game because I was like, I'm not going to traverse out 2 hours in the snow to watch Maryland athletics and specifically the Maryland football team. And I was proven right. Mike mentioned it. Like, I tweeted this out. I really think that I've come to understand where I sit with Maryland football.
Where is it?
Like, it's resignation. You know what is going to happen every week. It's almost like you're watching for the ways they can reinvent the same thing happening.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Like different things happen, but ultimately the conclusion ends up being the same. It's like you're reading a book and you read like the plot synopsis on Wikipedia and you're reading the book backwards to figure out how you get to the conclusion.
Yeah, you accidentally go to the last page before each game. You know it's a loss, and it's like, okay, let's see how they did it this time.
Yeah.
Was it 300 rushing yards and a loss? Was it a missed kick?
Yeah, I'm not even talking like even the wins. Like, you know kind of when they're going to win and when they're going to lose, but it's just like, how are they going to do it? And every week it's the same thing. And in the post game, I mean, Loxley, you know, end of season post game, it is what it is. Like, this team we've known for weeks has been kind of dead in the water, but you know, putting it on himself while also saying that he's done this before and no one, you know, he doesn't have to worry about when have you done it before? And also, like, saying that you don't have to worry about the message to the fans. I get what he was trying to say, but it just comes off really poor in a year that, like, your team went 4-8 again and everyone is like ready to, you know, end your tenure.
Mike,
I feel like I understand what his messaging was trying to be, but I feel like it would have been a lot better if he just...
Can you explain? I mean, you asked him a great question. You were in the room. What was he saying? I'm just confused.
So I asked him, you know, there's a lot of fans right now who are not confident in you being the coach for the future. What is your message to them as to why you're the man to lead this program going forward? And throughout the press conference, he did own up to it. He said the team didn't execute well. They didn't play enough. They didn't do a lot of stuff well. And at the end of the day, it's his job. He's got to be better. He owns that. And he owned it throughout the press conference. The issue is you can't be acting like I can't care about my messaging to the fans. Because when a fan sees that, they're like, oh, well, you know, screw this guy, you know? I think it would have been a lot better if instead he said, yeah, I understand their disappointment. I'm just as disappointed as them. I would be disappointed if I was a fan too. Something along those lines, which you hear a coach say a lot sometimes.
He actually, he said that earlier in the season, I remember. He was like, if I was in the stands, I'd be booing too, right?
Yeah, he did say that. But
no, but he didn't say at the end of the season. You're right.
You know, in terms of him being frustrated at me during the questioning, I get it. It's the end of the season. You just lost your 8th straight game after starting 4-0. You're answering questions you don't want to ask. And the guy asking them to you is going to talk about it on a podcast a couple days later. I get it.
No, of course.
But I don't think the messaging came across well to the fans online.
Yeah. I mean, when you look back at the season, Vegas had it spot on. The over-under was 4.5. They went 4-0, and they lost 8 straight.
Hey, imagine the man who bet Maryland over 4.5 in the fourth quarter, beginning of the fourth against Washington. That man was easy money. Now imagine that man the rest of...
That man is putting a future on the college football playoff. It's it's unbelievable, but it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying though. The ways that they found new ways to lose. You have, blowing the lead against the Nebraska, blowing the lead against Washington a week prior. Then you actually get the drive at the end of the game against UCLA that you were searching for the past 2 weeks. And then they use 40 seconds, UCLA goes and wins the game. And then it's like the missed kick from Sean O'Hara. I was like, what, a perfect way, honestly, to end this season. It kind of encapsulates it all. They just find a way to lose.
But Mike, they were 5 plays away from being 7-0. I will say this:
that whole has grown so old at this point.
well, it's tough. It's tough because when you don't win another game for the rest of the season, it doesn't matter. I think when I look back at this season, it's the way I remember a lot of Maryland football seasons, which is they had one catastrophic loss that they never recovered from. Yeah. I mentioned this on the podcast hundreds of times so far this year. The Washington game, it looked like they were going to recover against Nebraska. It looked like they were actually going to do it against UCLA. Winning a UCLA game would have been massive. But there comes a certain point in the season, and Loxley even mentions it, where you're just playing for pride at a certain point. You know you're not going to make a bowl game. Even if you do, it's going to be a random bowl game on probably at Ford Field again at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. There's just becomes a certain point in the season where a lot of the hope is lost, and they never recovered from that Washington loss. Obviously, they didn't win another game, but the way they looked on the field the whole rest of the season showed that, and it's happened a lot. And it's, I think I didn't predict at the time. I think after the Wisconsin game, I was like, this team's over-under is probably 6.5, 7.5 wins now. And, it almost would have been better if they lost to Washington by 50.
That Sidney Stewart ejection, that was the turning point of the season. I still think, though, even if they won that Washington game, there still would have been a collapse at some point this season. I mean, the depth
absolutely.
Depth issues were always there. That was always going to happen. When the injuries started to pile up, that was going to happen. The undisciplined play that was in that Nebraska game, I mean, that continued throughout the season with all the targeting calls. I mean, how about Trey Reddick in the fourth quarter? That led to the touchdown to ice the game when he just unnecessarily ripped off the guy's helmet. Like, it's the same stuff with this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's every week they reinvent new ways, but it's the same thing, and it's just fascinating to me how we keep sitting here and saying, if Maryland did this, if Maryland did that. Well, they don't. They never do. And so I think it's well past time to stop sitting here and justifying things with saying, well, if they had changed this, this would have happened. Because ultimately, those 50-50 things, those always go against Maryland. And that's not a coincidence. It's a trend if it happens time after time again.
Before we talk basketball, I want to quickly get your guys' thoughts just on the general college football coaching landscape. Obviously, a lot of drama with Lane Kiffin. The one interesting thing I saw over the weekend was Michigan State, the team that beat Maryland, firing their head coach. He believe he had 4 Big Ten wins in his 2 years there. 2 were over the Terps. Yeah. It's a win now business. This guy lasted 2 years and had 2 failing seasons. You look at Penn State, who could have won the national title this year, but had a bad start and had some injuries. They get rid of Franklin. Obviously what's happening with Lane Kiffin, it's an extremely win now business, or I don't want to see you. And, I think seeing all this happen, maybe you could argue it makes a little bit more sense why Maryland kept Loxley, but I really think it kind of just adds more questions to it in the sense that so many schools are dumping their head coaches, and Maryland did not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to know because we haven't really heard much from Jim Smith since that announcement. So it's you can't read his mind and what went into that decision.
Maybe it was to get Quincy.
Maybe it was to get Quincy. That relationship really helped get Quincy here. I don't know. But
you could argue it on both sides. You have no idea if Michigan State will be better with Fitzgerald. You have no idea because those questions are answered in 3 years down the line. I think Michigan State will be better in the next couple of years as well. But with hiring new coaches, it's such a big question mark. You have no idea. And so you can make the argument on both sides because there's been so much turnover.
And also at the same time, this is Jim's first year at Maryland. The situation he's walking into, he's got a team with a lot of young talent that they're still going to have to retain this offseason. But do you necessarily want to blow up the program your first year there when you've got the quarterback? That's the hardest position to
You
get.
definitely don't want to do that if you're
You've
him.
got the quarterback. You've got 2 stud edge rushers. You've got building blocks there. So I have to assume that that was part of his thought process. Then also, I mean, money. I mean, you follow the money. I would assume Michigan State has a little bit more resources than Maryland to make some of those types of moves. Would you agree, Brendan?
Yeah, at some point you have to know where you are financially from a football perspective and look at all the other sports you have at Maryland. They're obviously not LSU. They're not paying 3 coaches at once. And I think that fans wish they were a school that had, billions of dollars where if a coach has a bad season in any sport, it's see ya, but that's not how it works around the college athletics landscape. And at Maryland, obviously, for the past 20 years, we've seen that they cut sports 12 years ago to save money. Like it's just kind of how it's been. That's why they moved to the Big Ten. I think when you look back at it, sure, you can look at all the coaching changes, but a lot of it just reflects on what Maryland athletics has been and is in terms of a program. I also think that you look back at some of the decisions they made, firing Coach Friedgen, and like that's just a huge snowball effect. We could sit here and talk about this for hours. Let's get off football with one last thought from Mike. Your closing thoughts, 30 seconds on the football season.
I think just going forward, progress was a big theme this year. I think progress in 2026 is you have to beat the good teams. I mean, look at a team like Wisconsin, which was Maryland's only Big Ten victory this year. They had wins over Washington and Illinois, and they still had a bad season. And that's something that the Terps have not been able to do under Loxley. They have to beat those good teams. Beating the Michigan and Ohio State and Oregon, that is great to get an upper echelon type of win like that. But we also need to make the progress of just beating those teams that are right below that too. Those Washingtons, those Illinois. For this year, those Washingtons, those Nebraskas, those UCLAs on the hot stretch after they fire their head coach. They need to win against those types of teams. So,
UCLA never won another game. Yeah. Thank you for your closing thoughts, Mike. Let's talk basketball. They're actually playing a game right now against Wagner, but let's recap the Players Era Tournament. I thought the tip-off times were a bit ridiculous. They played 2 games at midnight and 1 at 9:30. Going through it, they won a little bit of a comeback against UNLV, and then they got the doors blown off them against Gonzaga, and the same thing against Alabama. I mean, Gonzaga, they obviously got blown out by Michigan, and Gonzaga and Alabama are 2 of the best teams in the country. I think those teams are both legitimate contenders to make the Elite 8 or Final 4. So we know Maryland's not that caliber. I just think it's the lack of offensive production that is very concerning. I mean, they got blown out, obviously, so what are we really talking about here? But the fact that they didn't really hang with those teams for even a half is it's just concerning. Yeah, and they got blown out. It's out of the gate, too. It's from the tip.
It was deflating to watch. But again, like, what were the expectations that we had for this team? Like, recording beginning of the year, did we actually think that they were going to beat Gonzaga?
No.
So, I obviously, yes, it's disappointing to watch that happen, but at the same time, like,
let's be realistic, sure.
We kind of understood this could be the situation that we would be watching this year when Buzz has to come in and build a brand new team from scratch. He's starting a little bit late compared to other coaches who are already there, who have already been doing some of that work. I'm not surprised. Obviously, I'd like to see them do better. I'd like to not see them have to outlast Mount St. Mary's in overtime using a 40-point effort from Diggy Coit, but we kind of.
I just think you have to the expectation, but like the way they're playing is not up to snuff. I mean, guys, obviously the net ratings are way too early, I think, to judge any sort of real thing. But fellas, this is the 94th team on KenPom, okay, right now. You know how many Big Ten teams are worse than them as we sit?
Maybe 1?
3, sorry. Penn State, Rutgers, and Minnesota.
That's 3 wins in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I guess. But those are teams with a 5-3 record, 4-4 record, and then Penn State's 8-1. So you're not looking at a squad that I think is up to snuff. The biggest concern for me is that their defense has not been good enough. If the way we saw this team winning games was kind of the grinded out slugfest type of wins, guys, they're 75th in defensive rating according to KenPom, and then they're 119th in offensive rating. So they're not doing that. They're not doing well enough on that end of the floor, and they're not rebounding well enough for a Buzz Williams team. People I see it compare it to the Kevin Willard's first team here, or even his second team. At least they defended. Like, this team doesn't play defense, and they're not good enough to kind of be the offensive focused squad.
Yeah, the defensive numbers are not perfectly accurate because one of the best defenders, Solomon Washington, has been out until tonight, and then Pharrell Payne obviously missed some time. But it's not going to solve all the problems. It's like
this team had to be a top tier defensive team in the Big Ten to make the tournament, and I don't think they've shown that they're at that level.
Yeah, they had to be like the team 2 years ago, the Kevin Willard's second team, where they were one of the top 10 defenses in the country, and that allowed them to stay in games. If they had a top 10 defense in the country, they can probably stay in the Gonzaga game or the Alabama game and make something happen. But if you're not playing defense to that level or rebounding, like you said, it's very, very difficult to beat teams that are on paper much better than you.
What do you guys think about Miles Rice right now? Lack of playing time's been kind of on and off. He hasn't played great even when he's been on the floor. Where are we at with Rice?
I just have no idea if he's healthy. That's the issue.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I assume the limited playing time is because his injury. I don't
know though, but I mean, Buzz is in the press conference, kind of open shade throwing at Rice, saying like the turnovers haven't been good. Like they need to get the turnovers in check. He hasn't been good enough. Like I don't think he's happy with where Rice is, and especially the way Tiggy Coit's playing. I don't know if I see Miles really reclaiming the starting guard spot.
Sounds like the player that Maryland was getting from Indiana. Like this guy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Has talent, but is very inconsistent, and you can't really rely on him. It is weird though. I mean, the Georgetown game, he looked really good. He was the best player on the court for Maryland. He scored 19 points. He was creating his own shot. And then he goes out with that same injury after that, and now he just hasn't looked the same. It's weird. It is very weird.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know. This group has still played so few minutes together. He started tonight against Wagner. Like, I think I hate to say this because it's December and this team's been so injured, but I think we got to see it for a couple more weeks before we make a real evaluation. I think the point about the player we got from Indiana, or Maryland got from Indiana, is pretty accurate. I think just thinking about it, Pharrell Payne, the way Maryland's going to win games is if Pharrell Payne plays like the best player on the floor, which he's done in some games. I think missing a couple and having that scare injury didn't help him. But when he looks like the best player on the floor, Maryland has legitimate chances to win games. It's just the issue is it's not going to be the case in a lot of Big Ten games.
By the way, holy shit! Like, took him a week to come back and play after that fall.
Yeah, that was that was
stretchered off the court, and now he's back. I mean, props to him. That is, sounds like the type of player that Buzz likes, and obviously, that type of grit is why he likes it. But yeah, shout out to Pharrell for getting back that quick. I was absolutely amazed when he was back in Vegas.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll say this about the net rankings. I was doing a little bit of research. In 2023, when Texas A&M made the NCAA tournament, the 8th week of the net rankings, or the 8th week of the season, it was like the 4th week of the net rankings. They were in the 100, they're 110. Maryland's obviously 200 right now. It's not looking much better, but there is a little bit of precedent for Buzz Williams being very high in the net and then making the NCAA tournament. Do I think that's going to happen this year? No, but it's an interesting data point from that 23 season. Maryland, let's look a little bit at the schedule going forward. Obviously, mentioned the Wagner game happening right now, but the first Big Ten contest will be on Saturday in Iowa. What are you guys' thoughts going into that first Big Ten game of the year?
Iowa playing Michigan State right now. They're down 20 currently. I do like Bennett Sturts a lot. The new kid that they brought in from Drake, Ben McCullum, I believe, is their new head coach. This is a very slow-paced offense, one of the slowest in the country. They're going to take their time. Sturts is going to get a lot of open shots. He's going to kind of control everything. I would expect this to be a pretty defensive-minded game. If Maryland can make shots, I think they could win this one. I don't think Iowa is particularly great. And in a matchup of two, new coaches, two new schools that are kind of dealing with dealing with some transition. I think Maryland, this is a good chance to pick off a road win. I don't think Iowa is great. I mean, other than Sturritz, who's averaging 38 minutes a game, Iowa has one double-digit score. So you kind of limit him, and I like being able to throw Watts at him, being able to throw maybe Solomon Washington even starts on him, having him back. I think this is a decent chance for Maryland. I don't know if I would pick Maryland to win outright, but I bet you this spread is probably pretty close, and I might take Maryland to cover.
I agree with you on everything on that. I'm going to bring this up because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to touch on it next week, but the week after the Iowa game, Maryland's playing number 3 Michigan. What would you guys consider a success?
Yeah, we will be. That game's Saturday. Next
Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay. We're going to be talking about it next week.
Quick shout out, the 100th episode Spectacular is next week. We'll be doing that. We'll touch on it, but
Okay, we'll touch on it. Okay.
all I'm going to say is it's an opportunity to storm it's a court storming opportunity, and that's all I have to say on that right now. Michigan could be the number 1 team in the country at that point. So
Guys, Michigan looks really good.
Yeah,
they're unbelievable. But the players era last year, I think Oregon won last year, and then they ended up being pretty mid. So players era is hard to know. Michigan looks unbelievable, but it's one of those, multi-team tournaments at the beginning of the year. I would put some stock in it, but with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Michigan.
would you put stock in Wagner beating Maryland at halftime?
I did not.
It's not halftime.
I didn't put any stock in that. Well, I might have after looking at the net rankings today. Wagner was ahead of Maryland, so conventional wisdom would tell you maybe Wagner will win that game after starting 1-5 on the year. Let's talk women's basketball before we freak out anymore about the men's team. Women's team, as I predicted, still undefeated. They went down to Puerto Rico. They beat Kentucky, who is somehow ahead of them in the net rankings, but Kentucky's looked really good. They won that game. I didn't get to watch any of it because it was on Flow Hoops. Shout out Flow Hoops. Not sponsored. Maryland won that game by 8, and then they played Hofstra, where they absolutely blew them out. Takeaways from at least the stat line from the Kentucky game?
Impressive. We were talking heading into this year that was going to be a game that's a real litmus test for who this team is in the year. So, really promising for that team to get that win. I will say, though, probably the biggest news outside of the Kentucky game was Ava McKinney's injury down in Puerto Rico. Another torn ACL for the Terps. So that depth that we were talking about, obviously Leah Bartolome got that torn ACL earlier in the season. So not great when you're getting all these injuries before conference play even starts.
It's just such a bummer for this team. We talked about it with Brenda Fries when we interviewed her before the season, which, at the end of the day, it's happened a lot for her, and sometimes it's just bad luck, honestly. I think this team is pretty deep. I don't think she was going to play a ton of minutes this year, so, the way that some of the guards have looked, Addie Mack played 40 minutes in that Kentucky game. That was my biggest takeaway. She scored 15 points. She has been a stud, and I think been much better than at least I anticipated. If she's playing like she's been playing and can play 40 minutes, they don't have a super big need for other guards. I know we talked about the depth earlier in the season, but they really played only 6 players in that Kentucky game. Kayleen Smichael, Yarden Garzone, Addie Mack, as I just mentioned, Sailor Poffenbarger, Alucci, and then Mir McLean. It was really a six-person rotation, so much tighter than I think we thought it's going to be, but they still do have some of that depth, but maybe they don't need it necessarily. Those are my biggest takeaways. They will start Big Ten play. Also this weekend, they will be traveling to Minnesota, and then they have some more non-conference games before getting back into the Big Ten slate.
All right, good stuff there on women's basketball. Real quick, just as the fall sports wrap up, we're not going to be touching anymore on softball, or not softball, my apologies. Women's soccer, what are the other fall sports that I'm missing? Football, we'll kind of we'll be checking on field hockey. We will be talking about soccer, though. Men's soccer,
bang.
Another big win.
Mike, I'll talk about volleyball for a minute. Ready? They finished season 8-22, 1-19 in conference, and did not win a set in the final 6 games.
Worst Big Ten record since they've joined the conference. Brutal. That's not really the type of season you're looking for from old Adam Hughes there. Let's move on to men's soccer, talk about them. Big tournament run so far. They're going to be headed to the Final Four if they win on Brendan, when do they play again? Sorry, it's Saturday, right?
They're Saturday. They're in the Elite Eight right now against Washington.
Washington, running it back.
Pretty interesting quirk about Washington. I didn't fact check this, but I would guess it's the first time a team has ever traveled to the same away destination 3 times in the same season. Washington played Maryland in a regular season game. Washington then came to Maryland for the Big Ten tournament. They didn't face Maryland, but it was hosted in College Park. And then Washington's going to travel for a 3rd time to College Park to take on the Terps in the Elite Eight. It's a bit unprecedented, as I would guess, but Maryland's looked pretty solid in the tournament so far. The North Carolina game was a bit concerning. Maryland ended up advancing on penalty kicks. Not Leon Cool. Lauren Mack, Maryland's goalkeeper, had 2 saves and scored the winning penalty kick, which was just unbelievable. I'm not sure what went into that decision exactly. Maybe it was a bit of a surprise move. He put a great shot into the left side of the net for Maryland to advance. Maryland looked a lot more like themselves in the UConn game, generating a lot more chances offensively and also defensively not allowing UConn to get as many shots on net. Overall, very solid. They've been a bit banged up. I mentioned Leon Cool a second ago. He was injured for that game. They've had a couple more injuries as playoffs had gone on. None super concerning, but they have a very good chance to beat this Washington team, a team that came to College Park on October 31st. They won 1-0 with a late goal. This is going to be a great game. I expect Ludwig to be pretty packed out with a trip to the Final Four at stake. Maryland's got a bit lucky, I think, in the NCAA tournament when you look over the whole weekend. After the first weekend, there were a ton of losses from some of the top teams in the tournament. Maryland ranked 4th, but the 1, 2, and 3 teams all lost that first weekend. So, Maryland's been the favorite to win this tournament for a week or so now, and they seem pretty poised to make a run to the Final Four.
It almost feels like they're kind of the team of destiny. You get that heartbreaking loss at home in the Big Ten tournament. Some fans are acting like the sky is falling and it's all over, and then they just go on this run at home. They're going to be facing a Washington team, though, that is comfortable in College Park now, like you said. They've slept in the hotel 2 times already. They've eaten in the grill marks below. They know College Park. They're comfortable. But definitely exciting. Sure to be a good crowd at Ludwig Field during the first non-football Saturday of the year. So definitely expecting a good turnout there, and it'll be exciting to see if they can go down to North Carolina for the Final Four.
Yeah, if I had to make a prediction right now, this will be our game of the week, obviously. It's an Elite Eight game. I would predict Maryland to win. Last time the teams played, Maryland generated 7 more shots, and the Washington goalkeeper played pretty well. I would expect Maryland to win this game by a score of 2-1.
2-1.
Maryland, exactly where you're at, Brendan. I like 2-1.
I'll switch it up. I'll go 2-0.
All
High
right.
level stuff from Michael.
Three of us take the Terps to advance to the College Cup. We'll cover that all next week if they do end up making it. We could have a jam-packed episode next week. We're definitely going to. I'll mention it again. 100th episode spectacular. Some of your favorite guests will definitely be back on the podcast.
We'll have some blasts from the past. Some guys you'll be like, oh man, I remember listening to him 4 years ago.
If you like Under the Shell and you like trivia, next week is the episode for you. We're gonna play a bunch of games with terrific Terps, with guests, with things we talked about. It's gonna be a Thanksgiving episode on steroids. So tune in. We'll have a lot of fun. And before we get out of here, let's have a little bit more fun and talk college football picks.
Let's go.
Bit of a side note: Mike did win the vote for Thanksgiving draft. Sam lost. I got second. So, yeah, Sam shakes his head in disgust. Mike gets 1 win. He doesn't even know his record. He's so far behind.
For the 100th record, we will have all...
Before the 100th episode.
100th episode, we will have all the records calculated, ready to go, because then we'll be making picks for the bowl games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But since I won the Thanksgiving draft, like you mentioned, I will start, and I'm going to start with Navy, 4.5-point favorites against Army. That's going to be at M&T Bank Stadium. I'm also going to take BYU.
That game is in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, I looked at the slate on DraftKings. We're taking Army Navy.
All right, that's fine.
I'm going to take BYU 12.5-point dogs against Texas Tech. BYU just got their coach back. They're going to be fired up. He is not going to Penn State. Who the hell is gonna get hired by Penn State at this point? And then lastly, I'm going to take him. Then we're going to take Virginia 3.5-point favorites over Duke in the ACC championship game.
Is that a basketball game or a football game?
Yeah, good question. It's a very basketball matchup.
Huge. I will not take the ACC championship, but I'll move on to my picks. North Texas versus Tulane. I'm going to take the over 67.5. A lot of scoring in those games. I'll ride Mike here, not in the Army-Navy way, but I'll take BYU plus 12.5 against Texas Tech. And then I will stick true to my guns. SEC, I'll take Georgia minus 2.5 against Bama. I think Georgia might win that game by 45.
I was wondering who was going to take that game.
Wow. In the battle of two coaches that are leaving their schools afterwards, but also a battle for the playoffs, give me North Texas to cover minus 2.5. I really like their starting quarterback. I think they're a good squad. Let me take them over Tulane. Give me BYU to cover plus 12.5. The last time these two teams played, Texas Tech worked BYU. I don't think the same is going to happen in the championship, especially the Texas Tech is going to make the playoff if they don't win, I would assume. So, but maybe they wouldn't. And then lastly, game of the week. Maybe game of the year. Give me Indiana plus 4.5.
Wow.
I came away
Glad
impressed.
someone picked that game.
Yeah.
I came away impressed with Ohio State, but I think this is going to be a really tight matchup. I honestly think these are the two best teams in the country. I'm really, really excited to watch that one. So give me Indiana plus 4.5.
Gutsy pick. Gutsy.
You know
All
me,
right.
baby.
All right.
All right.
Let's get to our favorite segment of the show. Brendan, take it away.
Make
This
it about
week's-
yourself, Brendan.
I try to do that at the end of every episode.
Here we go.
Next week, I'll have to have an unbelievable terrific terp. I'll start thinking.
Better be the best terrific terp we've ever had.
I might start researching now. It might be a 5-minute monologue. All right. This week's terrific terp helped jumpstart Maryland women's basketball's success in the Big Ten. Brianna Jones was a part of the Terps from 2013 to 2017. Those with great memory will remember Maryland's first season in the Big Ten, which was 2014. Jones grew up in Maryland and attended Aberdeen High School north of Baltimore. In high school, she was ranked 48th best in the country, but she was ranked the 7th best post player. Her junior year of high school, she led Aberdeen to a state championship. She may have done the same the next year in 2013, but unfortunately, her senior season was cut short in January because of a torn ACL. Coming into Maryland because of her ACL injury, it was unknown how much she would play her freshman year. However, she played 35 games, averaging 16 minutes a game with a more limited role, averaging just 7 points a game. After that year, once Maryland joined the Big Ten, as I mentioned, her sophomore year, she pretty much started every game for the Terps for the next 3 seasons. As a sophomore, she averaged 12 points a game, and that figure only climbed as she went on with her Maryland career. Junior year, she averaged 15 and just under 20 points her senior year. Her earlier years, the Terps had more success. Freshman and sophomore year, they made back-to-back Final Fours, but she had more personal success as an upperclassman. Her junior and senior year, she led the nation in field goal percentage and was a first-team All-American her senior year. After her time in College Park, she was drafted 8th by the Connecticut Sun, and just like some NBA stars, her big breakout came during the 2020 bubble season, and by 2021, she was averaging 14 points a game and starting every game for the Sun. Jones has played overseas in Russia, the Czech Republic. Last year in the EuroLeague, she was an MVP finalist. She took a year off from the WNBA after a torn Achilles and is now on her second year with the Atlanta Dream. While Jones is not in the University of Maryland Hall of Fame yet, she is this week's terrific Terp.
And another great, terrific terp from Brendan. Stay tuned for next week's when Brendan and a paranormal investigator talk to Irene Knox. As always, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere you want to listen to us. We're going to be there. And also, we're recording this on Tuesday. 5 years ago today, Catalyst Hot Dogs started. So shout out to Catalyst Hot Dogs.
Is that true? Wow.
It is, yeah, 5 years ago. So have a great day, everybody. And a hot dog is a sandwich.
Guess what? You've got Under the Shell Podcast. Nobody does it better.